good evening and welcome to the Hawaii Theater Center. Believe it or not, we are indeed live coming from you from the General Fred and Mary Wayward Room, the Donors Lounge here on the second floor of the Hawaii Theater Center. It is a busy night at the Hawaii Theater Center, but we are still coming to you with Tuning Up with Iggy and Dave. I am Dave Moss, Executive Director of the Hawaii Symphony Orchestra, and with us tonight...
Tonight we have a very special guest. We have Dr. Joseph Stepec.
Hello, everyone. Great to see all of you.
I've known you for quite a bit, but I've actually never quite knew your exact titles. You have so many different positions. One of them is Director of Orchestra of the UH Symphony.
Yes.
Another one is Director of Orchestral Activities with the Hawaii Youth Symphony. So thank you very much for joining us tonight.
So happy to be here. Really looking forward to this.
Yeah, welcome. Well, you probably are all wondering what the heck is going on behind us here and why aren't we on the stage of the Hawaii Theater Center? And this is a testament to Gregory Dunn and the Hawaii Theater Center and the board and the entire team here. We are on an active set at the moment. You are getting a look at the red carpet for an event taking place on, I believe, October 8th, the Nahoku Hanohano Awards taking place here, recorded tonight at the Hawaii Theater Center on the stage. Little bit bigger budget than the HSO, so we've been relegated to the donor room here, but really appreciate being
Special donor room.
So we appreciate the opportunity to still be here live with you tonight. We're going to talk story. We're going to talk about last Saturday's program, Galaxy of Strings, which was a wonderful success. And if you haven't seen it, we're going to share an opportunity with you to still see that live performance. And then we're going to talk about this coming Saturday's performance, From Chaos to Calm. I don't know if we're probably in the chaos at the moment, but we're going to get to the calm by Saturday evening. And that program will be conducted by none other than Joseph Stepec. So
that's right. Yeah.
Looking forward to that. But as always, we invite you to join in the conversation by texting your questions and comments to 808-528-0506. And that number is below you on the screen right here. And we welcome you to ask questions. We'll respond. You can ask Joe questions about life as a conductor.
Hiking,
yes.
Love
Joe,
to hike, as
yes,
you know.
Joe has offered quite a few suggestions for me in my limited time here.
I have, yes.
So yes, please join us in conversation. And of course, we have to kick off by start talking about the wine.
I haven't had any yet.
Well,
I think it's
by all
about
means,
time.
It is, yes. We are really appreciative of our sponsor, Kaka'ako Wines. I hope many of you took advantage of this wonderful Ridge Three Valleys 2017 Zinfandel that they have offered us this evening. We enjoy sipping alongside you. That was the wrong one, Iggy. That was the...
Sorry, but I have to wait until the end of the show before I can sip anything with colors. But I'm very much enjoying my water, which is Hawaii volcanic water. So thank you very much.
Yes, and we have a quiz question tonight because, as we've done in previous weeks, we have a bottle for one of you tuning in to Tuning Up. And the program this week features a little Shostakovich, and I think Joseph here has a question for us.
I do. So here's your big trivia question that's based off some of the music that we're going to be performing this weekend. So this weekend we're performing a very well-known work by Dmitri Shostakovich, a very personal work, one that is really powerful, haunting, and we're really looking forward to presenting it. And the question for you is, what was Dmitri Shostakovich's favorite sport? And the hint is, he loved this sport so much that he actually wrote a ballet about it. So there's your question. What was his favorite sport?
So were there actually dancers performing that sport?
I think so. Yes, in that ballet. Yes, I believe there was.
Very interesting.
And it may have been a grisly performance. There's another hint.
Wonderful. Yes. Well, this weekend's program is From Chaos to Calm. It is Shostakovich's Chamber Symphony. It is a work by William Grant Still called Mother and Child. We have the final movement of Dvorak's American Quartet, an arrangement for string orchestra. And we're really dipping our toe in the water here this week. We're going to have an oboe. We've moved from strings to one oboe and the distance necessary to do that. And I'm thrilled to welcome Scott Janish, who was on our show a few weeks ago, and our colleague Claire Hazard as soloists, both in the Bach Concerto for violin and oboe.
So you know, for those of you who are wondering how we're managing to feature a wind player and oboe, what kind of precautions are we taking?
It's all about the distance, and we haven't yet started rehearsals yet. Rehearsals start tomorrow evening, and on the stage here at Hawai'i Theater Center, and we are working to navigate our 17 massed string players in the orchestra with a harpsichord, with an oboist who can't wear a mask, and our violin soloist. And in order to do so,
and the conductor.
And the conductor.
That's
we
right.
can't forget
you
the
can't
conductor.
leave out the most important person.
Yes. Yes.
A lot of conductor jokes, I think, in the future.
Yeah, Iggy had been holding off, but now I'm not sure he's going to. So it is about distance, and since Scott is not able to play with a mask on, much like the singers who are on the stage currently on the Hawai'i Theater Center, we just need 12 feet of distance. And we have some dividers that will separate him from the other string players as another layer of precaution. And I think the thing we're most excited about is the continued investment on behalf of the Hawai'i Theater Center into some new UV lighting that is on the stage, as well as a third layer of protection for our safety here amidst COVID-19.
We can maybe see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like, actually, you know, I was in touch with my sister. My sister lives in France, like the rest of my parents and my brother. And my sister's a pianist, and I was very surprised to hear that this past weekend, my sister played a recital with 2 singers in a church in France.
Wow.
So of course there was some precautions, some distancing, but it happened. So
that's wonderful.
Things are happening here?
Absolutely. Well, as our principal violist said to me when I used that same phrase, I think I see the light at the end of the tunnel. It was Mark who said to me, make sure it's not a train coming at you.
Wow.
He has a way with words.
He does. Hey, I just wanted to, you actually knew each other, both of you, before coming to Hawaii. Can you tell us a little bit about what kind of reputation did the other person have?
Well, we were both Obies.
That's right.
Nothing to do with Star Wars. We are both alumni of Oberlin College, Conservatory of Music, just outside of Cleveland.
In the cornfields.
In the cornfields, yes. And I think I was maybe a year or 2 ahead of you at Oberlin.
I believe you were, right. We didn't actually know each other very well at all when we were at Oberlin together, and we only figured out when you moved here a few months ago now that we had been at the same school for at least a year. And it is sort of funny that we didn't know each other, because Oberlin is such a small school and really prides itself on
very reputable.
A very reputable music school, but also really prides itself on how small it is, you know, and which is wonderful because you get to obviously study with wonderful teachers in a kind of a small group setting. But
and when you were at Oberlin, you were a violinist.
I was.
And I was a violist.
And I had just started conducting at Oberlin, actually.
Did you? I was going to ask that.
Yes.
Is that where you got into?
That's exactly where I got into conducting. A friend of mine asked me to conduct the Brahms Violin Concerto, and I assembled an orchestra, and things went.
Did you have any training before that?
You really don't need much training to be a conductor. No, I'm kidding. No, I didn't. I didn't
And you just
really
picked
have
up the
much.
Brahms Violin Concerto to conduct.
Yes, exactly. And it's a hard piece to conduct. So there were some.
It is.
Some
Brahms,
challenging.
all those polyrhythms.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, it is very hard. And but that's where I started at Oberlin, and I started taking lessons after that with the conducting teacher there, and it's been my life
And the
ever
rest
since.
is history.
Yeah,
And then you went from a very small school to a very big school, which I went to as well.
Yes, Indiana.
And then,
That's right.
Dave went to Juilliard, but
Right.
So tell
We all
us.
share interesting connection.
Yeah, we all have. What did you call it, Dave? 6 degrees of separation.
That's 1 degree of separation from Randy Wong. Yeah.
Who's probably listening tonight.
And subsequently works with Joseph here at the Hawai'i.
That's
Symphony.
right.
So there's a, yeah.
So Indiana, but actually, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Cleveland, and I started studying in Cleveland. Oberlin was always one of the, I always held it in high regard, and it was my dream to go to that school. And the funny thing is my violin teacher there was also the former concertmaster of the Hawai'i Symphony, Greg Fulkerson.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yes, in the 80s, I think.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it's very tight-knit here.
Yeah.
In multiple ways.
Are your parents musicians?
They aren't, no. My dad likes to say that he sings, but I wouldn't say that he's a musician. Sorry, Dad, if he's listening. But no, he's not. I got into music, actually. My parents took me to a performance of the Cleveland Orchestra playing the Nutcracker of all pieces. I think I must have been 7, and I was just so enthralled by the sound of the orchestra and what was happening on stage, and it just took me away.
That's great. Violinists, we only sometimes make fun of conductors, but when you started conducting, did you find a newfound appreciation for the work of what a conductor does?
Yes, I think so. I think after I had started really seriously studying conducting, I think I really began to appreciate how multifaceted it is as a profession. It's not just about being a musician or being able to physically show something or show a gesture that people can interpret. But there's also a lot of other elements. There's psychology. There's learning how to get the best out of people, inspire the best out of them, and so it was definitely a process. And you never stop learning as a conductor. I'm always learning new things about stuff that I didn't know about. I just learned to read music yesterday.
But what I noticed that conductors, you have to deal with, string players and wind players, and sometimes we don't always have the same sense of pulse, internal pulse. You have to deal with young people, older people, and same thing. We might not have the same sort of idea of what an internal beat is. So I guess that's what you were talking about.
Yes.
Having to adapt to different psyches, maybe.
Different psyches and get everyone on the same page. Not just in terms of pulse, but artistically. It's sort of an all-encompassing profession. I teach conducting actually at UH, and I've now in my, I think this is the 5th semester that I've been teaching my conducting class, and I told my students to log on today, so I hope they're here. But I really love the role of teaching conducting because, when you're working with these students, you're working with them on on all of these things, right? Also on confidence and just learning how to present yourself well. So it's a real joy and something I enjoy doing a lot. Yeah.
So one of the things that musicians always talk about when working with conductors in different orchestras, and I just want to peel back the curtain a little bit into interacting with the conductor. In a typical symphony season, the Hawai'i Symphony will see a dozen different conductors, sometimes more. And the orchestra reacts differently to everyone. And what some orchestras, and I've never heard the HSO play with a conductor, so I have yet to see where this falls with the symphony, but there's always this conversation of with the beat or after the beat.
Oh, yes.
And so actually, Iggy, tell me about with the beat.
You'll hear 2 versions.
Yeah,
Joel's
I want to hear.
my version.
Yeah.
So, Dave, what is your question exactly?
So my question is, Joseph steps up on the podium and he gives the downbeat, and the downbeat is the first motion to start the orchestra. And there's perhaps you can describe this better.
What is it, ictus?
In ictus, yeah, absolutely. So that point where the downbeat falls, where all of the strings come in, and you touched on it a little bit, the woodwinds have a different pulse. The brass, there's a huge distance on stage, and everyone together is reacting to the moment that you do that.
Right.
And in the orchestral world, some orchestras play exactly when that hand hits the bottom. There are also some orchestras that play about there, like play a solid second or two after a conductor gives their gesture. So we have a concertmaster and we have a conductor in the room. And could you guys talk about that? I've never heard.
I can tell you my experience.
Yeah.
To me, it comes down also to the age. So the younger you are, the more prompt you will be in reacting to a beat by the conductor. But my experience is when I moved from my college years to my first professional orchestra on the mainland, I could play all the notes, and that's how I got the job. But then I joined the orchestra, and I was wondering why people couldn't stay with the conductor, and I was a little bit always ahead, and I was very confident that I was with the conductor, and no one else could follow him. And I didn't get tenure my first year. They put me on probation, and they said, "You're always early." And it kind of stunned me, because I sincerely thought that I was with the conductor's beat. But that was a professional orchestra. It was my first professional experience. And so then I learned that what was more important was to blend in with my colleagues and to breathe collectively. And then if you think that it's not just yourself, but maybe 60, 70, 80 colleagues, it takes a lot more time to react to conductor's beat. So I think when you're in a youth orchestra or college, you're much more on the beat, at the bottom of the beat. And maybe I'll let Joe share his experience, because you conduct all kinds of orchestras, youth orchestras, college orchestras, professional orchestras. And so I wanted to know your experience having to adjust to maybe the older people like me, where we're like,
This is a really sort of age-old question when it comes to conducting. Do the beats happen on the bottom, or do they happen when the conductor comes up? And it's really fascinating to me, because when you watch a lot of American orchestras, they tend to play with the beat most of the time. Of course, professional orchestras in the United States, when we say playing with the beat, there may be still a delay if you compare that to student ensembles, as you just mentioned, right? Student ensembles are very much on the beat, right? But when you look at ensembles in Europe, sometimes you have to wonder, is there a delay in the video? They look like they're playing it so behind the conductor. And these are great conductors they're working with. Barenbaum, just really big names, Maida, and you know that these conductors are doing their jobs really well and getting the most out of the groups. And yet, you sit there and wonder, how is that together? There's a lot of speculation about this. Some of it goes back into history, especially with conducting opera, I think. In general, the job of the conductor is to keep large forces of people together. But sometimes there are so many people on the stage that there is going to be a delay no matter what, just because certain instruments take longer to speak. And I remember actually last year in November, I conducted this concert with the Hawai'i Symphony, the University of Hawaii Symphony Orchestra, and the Hawaii Youth Symphony. This A&A concert was the largest orchestra I had ever conducted. I think it was close to 150 people, if I'm not mistaken. And boy, I can tell you, when I was conducting that orchestra, I felt this massive delay. And I just sort of had to close my eyes and just go with it. And it was a fascinating experience. But adjusting to these different groups, it can be challenging, I think. And I think for professional ensembles, they have a culture. They have a a way of doing things, and a lot of it is sort of unspoken. You just have to sort of feel your way into it. And when I'm working with a group such as the HSO, I'm really aware. I try to be as aware as possible of the energy that's coming within the ensemble, and I try to find a way where I can lead people where I need them to go, but without interrupting their flow or their language, if that makes sense. So it's a challenging thing to find, I think, and to change right on the dime. Yeah. But I can tell you, the more I've done it, the easier it is for me. I have noticed that I'm getting a little bit more adept at it. Hopefully, I would. So yes.
So you've talked about a couple of different conductors in our conversation. I think about back when we were at Oberlin. I think we were very privileged to have a number of really big name conductors come in. Simon Rattle, Bob Spano,
David Zinman.
Yeah, David Zinman. Every year it seemed we had the best of the best coming.
We were very lucky.
We were, yeah.
Yes.
And how much did that influence your decision to go into conducting, being exposed to those conductors at such a formidable time in your career?
Yeah, it had a great influence on me. I remember playing Dvorak's 8th Symphony with David Zinman and just being blown away at his knowledge of the score. He didn't even, I think he had all the rehearsal numbers memorized or something, and just feeling the energy that he created from the ensemble. And to be a part of that was fascinating, and I knew I really wanted to be in that role in some way. I also remember a performance of Brahms' 2nd Symphony with Robert Spano. Yeah. That was also really just overwhelming, really. And certainly, I think I'm lucky because as a conductor, I also play violin, and I still try to perform, and that certainly has given me a lot of insight and help into, I think, learning how to work with ensembles. But certainly, yes, Oberlin had a huge effect on me, for sure.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, we have a winner that I want to announce here, not to change the subject.
Awesome.
Our friends at Kaka'ako Wine are maybe headed back to the same place. I think our winner is Jordan Shafino.
Oh, hi, Jordan.
Yes, thank you so much.
Speaking of beat,
speaking of beat, yes, Jordan is actually a percussionist with the Symphony.
He is.
And
his wife is also a violinist with the Symphony.
She
Rachel,
is, and
yes.
I do think she had the correct answer last week of 2,000 parts in the harp.
Now I have to say, because I know they're watching. We had Jordan and Rachel and I had just had a discussion about Shostakovich, and I know that I'm not surprised that he won because I know that they're such big fans of his music.
So what was the answer?
The correct answer is European football.
That is correct.
Not soccer.
Not soccer. European football. Congratulations, Jordan.
Yes, congratulations indeed. So, Shostakovich.
Yes.
Let's move into this week's program, which will be live on Saturday evening at 7:30 p.m. Tickets are available. You'll get a link to purchase tickets if you don't have them already after this evening's show. And if you're a subscriber, please join us. You already have your tickets. So, take us through the program.
Yeah, so a really fun program this week. Exciting program. It has a lot of different kinds of music. We start with the double concerto by Bach, violin and oboe double concerto. And this is just one of my favorite Bach concertos in general.
Not performed very often.
It is not performed very often. I don't know why, because it's really charming.
Absolutely.
And what I love about it is that it has these really strange sort of, if you listen closely, it has these really strange harmonic shifts that really happen out of nowhere. You can imagine yourself driving down a highway and then taking a wrong turn and finding yourself somewhere where you weren't supposed to be in the first place. And I love that about this piece, and I think that really speaks to its quirkiness. It's a very quirky piece. And of course, with Bach, you know, like all music in the Baroque era, there's this certain sense of poise that comes with this music. And I always am drawn to this image of ballet when I hear Baroque music, ballet and dance.
It's for violin, oboe, but do you think it was originally written for the two instruments?
You know, there's some discussion on that, I think. I think it may have been originally written for violin and, I want to say flute, but I may be wrong on that. I know Bach did later rewrite the composition for two harpsichords. Yeah, two harpsichords. Then from the Bach, we moved to the Shostakovich 8th String Quartet, which is also known as a chamber symphony, his chamber
So we're doing
symphony.
The chamber orchestra version of the string quartet.
Yes, exactly. And this is where the chaos of the program, I think, comes in to play. The second movement of this work is really high energy, a little bit unpredictable rhythmically, and it literally sounds like a representation, I think, of chaos. But the piece itself is extremely powerful, and for those of you who might not know about its history, it was written in 3 short days. Shostakovich was in Dresden, Germany, for a film festival, I believe, and in 1960, and he wrote this work in about 3 days. And it features a lot of different quotes from some of his previous works, the first cello concerto,
Piano trio.
the piano trio as well. And there's some debate about whether or not this piece was meant to be an autobiographical work about his experiences living in Soviet Russia, or if it was supposed to be sort of a protest piece against all of the tragedy of the previous war. And dedicated the work to the victims of fascism and war. But it's an extremely powerful piece. There are moments in there that I think are quite uncomfortable to listen to. And what I mean by that is, for example, within the first page of the violin part, opens very quietly and with Shostakovich's signature, actually. He writes his signature in the music, as you know. It begins with the notes D, E flat, C, B natural, and in German, E flat is S and H is B natural, so it spells out D-S-C-H, Dmitri Shostakovich.
So it's usually disguised in a lot of his words, but there it's right there.
It's right there at the beginning. He's literally writing at the very beginning of this work, Dmitri Shostakovich. This is it. Some people feel like it's his own epitaph that he's writing, and it's quite interesting. And anyway, within the first page, we hear this signature, the music comes to a cadence, and then there's this drone that's held, and you actually have this rather long extended solo.
I do?
Yeah. And there's a number of times in this score where there's this drone and there's an instrument that either has a solo or a section that has a solo. And to me, it's a voice, a bereaved voice just wailing out. And it's quite powerful. It's quite powerful. And, the work is essentially tragic.
And it's 5 movements without interruption?
It's 5 movements without interruption. All movements run into each other, so it's.
And it's not very long. The whole thing
It
is
isn't.
what?
It's about 24 minutes,
24
I think. But in that 24 minutes, you have, just extreme pathos, violence, I think, almost.
Brutal.
It's brutal. There are passages of this music that are quite brutal. Another passage that I'm particularly drawn to in the 3rd movement, which is a scherzo, a solo cello just holds out this E natural drone, and behind it the violas are playing this viola line. And some people believe that this drone, the sound of this drone is supposed to be the sound of a bomber, a plane in the background, that just the sound of those planes' engines. So it's a very visceral music. It really
So
is.
before we get to the more uplifting music,
Uplifting, yes.
you did mention that you found a lot of similarities between Shostakovich and another German composer.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit?
Right. Shostakovich in his life said numerous times that he was really influenced by the music of Gustav Mahler. And for most of you, I think know Mahler is one of these composers who's also known to be very autobiographical, emotional, temperamental, all of these things. And there's, I believe, really a similarity between this spirit of autobiography, this spirit of just putting everything out there, of being so open, not just with all the joys you may be experiencing, but with all of the negative things. And you're right, and so I think there's a similarity there of openness in these composers, autobiographical openness maybe. And I certainly think that's really interesting. Shostakovich really admired Mahler. In fact, his Fourth Symphony sounds almost like Mahler in a way, and many of his students, after he died, had commented that he was constantly studying the scores of Mahler. That's what I find really interesting. So we moved from the Shostakovich afterwards to William Grant Still's Mother and Child, a piece for string orchestra. Actually, it was originally a work for violin and piano. It was later arranged for string orchestra. And William Grant Still is this wonderful African-American composer who actually graduated from Oberlin, so there's another connection there. And, you know, this man was really writing in the era of jazz and just around the time of like the Great American Songbook. So when I listen to this piece and when I study it and when I think about it, I hear Gershwin, I hear I hear soul, I hear all of these elements of popular music in this particular work.
How did you find this piece?
I found this piece, even though I'm a violinist, I actually didn't know the violin piano original. I found it, a colleague of mine sent me a performance of it actually on YouTube, and that's how I found it.
I haven't played that piece. I'm looking forward to
It really
playing.
is quite beautiful, and it really sells this image of a mother holding a child in her arms, just sort of rocking the child to sleep or calming it down, you know.
A soothing effect from the Shostakovich.
Yes, a soothing effect. That's exactly right, and I think it'll be the perfect foil to the Shostakovich. And then from the Shostakovich, we moved to the Dvorak American Quartet, which I had conducted recently, actually, for the All-State String Orchestra, I think, this past year in January.
That seems so long ago.
I know, it seems so long ago. It really did. And I mean, what's not to love about Dvorak? I mean, this music is so bright, positive, and it's really a nice way, I think, to end the program. I'm looking forward to it a lot. I'm really looking forward to the Shostakovich, especially, you know, as a conductor, I haven't conducted since March 13th. And that's been a long time for me. I had to look it up, March 13th.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm dying to make music again with people. And so I'm looking forward to it. And that piece in particular is just so powerful. It really has a deep message. So it's an honor to be a part of it.
Well, we're looking forward to it. And there's a couple other threads through this program that we're really excited to bring to the stage here at Hawaii Theater Center. And one of them is actually an instrument that has quite a notorious history with Hawaii. It actually was just moved into the theater this morning. It usually resides at the Honolulu Museum of Art. And so we're grateful to our friends over there who have allowed us to check this instrument out. I hear they don't do that with all of their works of art, but they made an exception for us. But this is a harpsichord that we'll be using on the Bach Concerto. And it's a harpsichord built by John Challis. And there's a number of things that are unique about this instrument. I don't know if we've shared this in previous weeks, but I'm a bit of an early music fan, meaning music before Mozart was born. And most of that repertoire uses a harpsichord. And I somehow ended up with a harpsichord that was donated to the Symphony in the HSO office. And Steve, our wonderful finance guru, and can attest that I will get into the office and play that terribly out-of-tune harpsichord a few times a day. And it brings me such joy to have that connection.
Does it bring Steve much joy?
Well, Steve has the number. He can text in. I know he's watching. He can text and tell us how he really feels about it. It'll remain anonymous. But I'm overjoyed to get to experience this instrument. Most harpsichords are made completely of wood, except for the metal strings that are, unlike a piano, they're plucked. So piano has a hammer, forte piano, as it was originally called, but a harpsichord has a number of plectors that pluck the string, so it creates a much different sound than other keyboards. Now, a typical harpsichord has a rather warm sound compared to the instrument that we're going to experience this week. And that is because this instrument it was built with Hawaii in mind, and the humidity and the moisture and the heat. It is actually an instrument that is made much of aluminum. And so there is a certain metallic quality to this instrument, I understand, that I'm really excited to hear with Scott and Claire and the orchestra. The other part of this instrument, and I think one reason why it's at the Honolulu Museum of Art, is that the inside of the instrument, the inside of the lid, has a wonderfully beautiful picture painted on the inside. Charlot, I believe, is the artist who painted the inside of this instrument. And that will be on display with our wonderful, you'll get an up-close image of that in our performance on Saturday. So I know as soon as that stage gets cleared, I'm going to sneak down there and explore that instrument.
You might even win an Hoku Hano Award.
Maybe. I have to say it's a pleasure for the symphony to be this close to the red carpet. It's really, I feel like we're on E currently. Yes, getting a glimpse of the red carpet. So so that we have that instrument that's joining us, and I'm very curious if Scott, who was on the show a few weeks ago with his instrument that was made of the wood from here in Hawaii that was from the same time period, I'm wondering if he's considering maybe playing that instrument for the Bach as well, tying this all together. So I guess we'll have to wait until Saturday.
We'll have to wait and see. It'll be a big surprise, I think.
Absolutely. Well, we can't go without talking about what happened this past Saturday. You know, it's been since March 13th, since you've conducted, and a similarly distant past for the musicians as well, before we return to stage. And Iggy, what was it like? I have to ask. We've made it through week one.
There was a certain level of anxiety for me before we got started, but then we sat down for the first rehearsal. By the end, it was a very special week. I think it felt special for all the musicians involved to be part of something, to be able to share something, to be able to communicate with one another. It's something I think we will all cherish. Hopefully we'll, in a few months, we'll look back and look at that first week and cherish every single minute. What felt special to me was that it felt, in spite of the audience not being there in person, it did feel like a true performance. You had Donner behind the camera, and the crew, and Greg, and yourself, telling them what the timing, and you told us, the mic is hot, meaning we can hear you if you say anything, before the concert. And then it was time to play. It was live. I think, to me, there's nothing better than live music when you're actually not recording for purchase later on, but when the audience is there with you at the very same time. So I know there's some awkward moment where we finished the piece, right? We're done with the piece, and there's big silence, right? Not that we're starving for attention, not that we're starving for applauses, but that's something we we expect some sort of noise, right?
Yeah.
But there was none. But many people told us that they were clapping inside of their home, and just the fact that we were able to wave at the camera, it felt like the symphony being in a family of friends and family, being reunited at the Hawai'i Theater Center, and the other thing too, I thought we did beautiful music together. It was somewhat well-known repertoire. Some of it maybe not as well-known. Just in Montgomery was the very first for us, but I felt like we accomplished something together. There was an artistic value that each individual in the orchestra brought.
Yeah. Well, we often talk about these Tuesday nights as being this little oasis that, we get to have a taste of normalcy, whatever that means. To share a glass of wine and talk about the symphony and talk about arts and how important it is for the community. And I feel so privileged alongside, all of those of us who got to be backstage. It was a small number, but, really what we were able to do to continue connecting to our community and just the overwhelming feedback we've gotten since Saturday from our audience that tuned in. We were able to reach people that maybe had not been able to come to a symphony performance before, whether they were on one of the other islands or, we had a lot of mainland folks that were joining us for the performances. And I think that for us as an organization, we were able to step into something new and exciting, and we're able to rethink what the future looks like, even when we go back to in-person performances and how we share the music that is so important to our community.
And kudos to the audio and visual team, Bob Dickerson and Donald, because I heard many positive feedback. And you just mentioned you got comments from people from neighbor islands?
We did. We had someone wrote in our survey this morning for some feedback that they were on Big Island and that they used to come, but just obviously couldn't anymore for different reasons. And if you're tuning in and tonight, we really appreciate hearing from you, and so glad that we could bring the symphony right into your home. And we had another person write in from Kauai saying the same thing. I'd never been able to come to the HSO, and this is my home orchestra, and now it's in my living room. And I was doing a little piece for one of the news stations here about our performances, and I said, the fact that you can hear and support live musicians who live here in Hawaii, and this is their livelihood. This is how, bread and butter. This is what we do. How we can continue to support people at a distance, and you can do it in your pajamas with a glass of wonderful wine that you have at home, and in the comfort of your own home. And it dawned on me, how are we going to get people back to the concert hall? We've got, when you have a videographer like Donard who's able to move you through the orchestra when solos are happening and give you that experience of the audio of sitting next to Iggy while he's playing, how am I going to get you to come back into the theater when you can do that in such high definition? And I'm grateful to the entire production team and the musicians for bringing that through the lens into people's homes. So I think we're on to something here.
That's right.
And I'm looking forward to continuing. We have some questions that are coming in. A wonderfully timed one. I would think that this was almost from our box office. I missed the concert last week. Is there any way we can catch it? And the answer is yes, absolutely. For those people who purchased tickets, you should have received a link earlier today to actually view the performance on demand for the next 30 days. Now, if you didn't purchase a ticket to the concert over the weekend, you're in luck. You can purchase a ticket to watch the film on demand for the next 30 days. So no matter where you are, you can enjoy that at your leisure. And it's a way for us to continue the operations of the symphony, and for you to support us and for us to bring you music. So head on over to the HSO website, or better yet, you can go right into the Hawaii Theater Center box office where you can purchase that opportunity. I have a feeling that there'll be a link in your inbox after this show. So, and we have confirmation as well, and it's a comment from Steve.
Okay.
Yes, the harpsichord is an unusual instrument. Oh, and I'm looking forward to more of your impromptu performances in the office. So,
Great. Joe, you said you haven't been conducting, and I've seen you work in your office and through Zoom or
My Zoom rehearsals
for UH, for the Youth Symphony, and yes, you've done so many countless hours of coaching via the computer online. How do you feel about tomorrow, just finally able to be on stage, standing in front of an orchestra?
I can't wait. I am so looking forward to this opportunity. I think when I saw Dave tonight, I said, Dave, you have no idea how much energy I feel I've gotten since the beginning of the week, just anticipation of finally getting to work with an ensemble again. I can't wait. And, and part of me, as an artist, I mean, we want to create. Our creations are our way of putting our voice out there, and not having to do that in so long is
I mean, there's
difficult.
value
It's
to
stifling.
it. I'm teaching a string quartet online, right? So because of
What an experience!
Because of the lag, you can't have everyone on 4, 1, 2, right? It's not going to work. So you ask each individual member to play their part. You ask everyone else to mute themselves and to play along with the person who's playing live or online. And then you wash, rinse, and repeat. So the next person, second person, then third person, then the fourth person. And that's what you do, and then you move on to the next section. But Joe does that with the whole orchestra.
I do, and so what I've been doing, do you want me to talk a little bit about how I do this? I have to say it's quite fun, and I try to take a positive approach to this. Obviously with this whole situation, we want to be safe, we want to protect everyone, we want to follow the law as well. And so my take on it is, being online might be difficult, it might be totally different, our artistic values, we might not be able to meet them the same way, but it is an experience nevertheless. It's something for us to do that is important. And so what I've been doing is I put everyone on mute, I see them on the video screen, and I basically play the violin and they play with me. And I sort of imagine what's going wrong. That's what I do. But it's honestly, as a conductor though, when you're studying a score, you sort of do the same thing too. You said, the clarinet might want to play a little bit louder here just because of the way this is written or something. So you take a mental note and say, okay, make sure I can really listen for this balance. So it is sort of similar in a way. And I basically go through the whole piece that way and go through sections. And now what I'm doing is taking things apart and trying to teach some technical stuff based on what's in the rep. So it's possible to get some stuff done, and I try to be really upbeat, and music is such a wonderful art, and I'm a firm believer that even if you're one person playing by themselves, linked to 50 other people that you can't hear but you can see, that has to have meaning, and it is valuable.
And I've seen the student actually. You would
Yes.
think they would just tune out and just be looking at their phone, but they all
They're doing
seem
it.
very enthusiastic and
Yeah.
very committed to your teaching.
They are, and we right now for the Hawaii Youth Symphony and for the University Orchestra, we're both ensembles right now. We're making these videos, where basically we're listening to a click track, and the students play towards the click track, and then and they record themselves, and then a videographer goes back and puts the whole thing together. And one of our projects, we just finished the audio mock-up, and I played it for the students last week, and it was just incredible. You could feel their energy, their excitement, their sense of accomplishment, it may not have been an in-person performance, but it still has something of value.
Very fulfilling.
It's still fulfilling in a way. Yeah, it's just different.
It's really amazing how we've all adjusted to a new normal and just.
Well, I haven't really, but I think most people have.
Well, you're doing a good job of pretending like you have.
No, but I feel privileged to be here, like you said, tonight, to have been on stage last week.
It really was
You
a
know,
fantastic
those
concert.
are moments to savor and
Yeah.
to really fully appreciate. Without those moments, I'm not sure how I would.
Yeah, absolutely. So, where are we hiking, Joe? I mean, we got to turn this someplace away from Shostakovich at the moment.
Yes,
so.
yes. Yeah, I think many people know I'm a really avid hiker, and I've heard that Dave likes to trail run, and so although I do have a reputation for taking people on some hikes that are a little dangerous.
Oh,
so
good.
At UH.
Maybe can we wait until next week?
Yes, we'll wait until
Okay,
we'll
all right.
wait until next
Sunday.
week.
Sunday.
Yes, but I remember a friend of mine came to Hawaii a couple months ago and was interviewing for something here, and I took him on a hike the day before, and it didn't go so well for him. He was very frightened for his life, unfortunately. But I'll be kinder to you, I promise.
Oh, I mean, I'm up for it.
Are there more hills in Hawaii than in Oberlin or in Ohio?
There are.
A few.
Yes.
Yeah, there was. There's the mound in Oberlin. That's the only thing I remember.
Oh yes, by the water or the water sanitation place or whatever.
Oh.
A reservoir. The reservoir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, the reservoirs.
The reservoir.
Yeah.
Many memories. Yes.
Yes. And Iggy, this is a quiz question for Iggy.
Yikes.
Do you know what the unofficial mascot of Oberlin College is?
I do not.
It is an albino squirrel.
Okay.
There are multiple.
That's true.
There are multiple albino squirrels running around the town of Oberlin. It's like the highest population anywhere in the world.
In the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we have caps with albino squirrels on them.
Great. I'm fascinated.
And our athletics team is the Yeomen. Right? I think.
Yeah,
Or-
except for the frisbee team.
The frisbee team
It was
is-
the flying horse cows.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
You know what we should have asked is what was Shostakovich's favorite soccer team in Russia? Maybe we can find that. Maybe the CSKA Moscow or Dynamo Kiev
Yeah.
or Anyway,
Anyways,
Next week.
next week. Well, we will be back next week, and Iggy and I will be. He's just hearing about this now, but Iggy and I will be back next week, and we're excited to continue bringing you some other musicians from the orchestra. We've heard, especially from our HSO associates, who are wonderful volunteers that just do so much for the symphony. We asked for them for a little feedback as to who they'd like to see on the show, since so many of you are tuning in, and the musicians were high on their list. So of course, they are the reason we are all here.
And I have to say that it's so wonderful to feature so many of these musicians in solo roles, right? We had Connie last week, who did a wonderful job in the Handel concerto, and this week we have Scott and Claire.
that's right. Well, it's the musicians, the Hawaii Symphony Orchestra, it's the musicians, the staff, Dave at the helm, it's the board members, of course, it's the associates, it's the audiences, it's a lot of moving parts.
It is indeed.
The artistic staff, of course.
Absolutely. And a shout out to, of course, Joanne Folletta. I was chatting with her a little bit earlier today and making sure that she had a link so that she could watch the performance from Saturday. Her orchestra in Buffalo was also doing their premiere performance.
Oh, wow.
They were actually doing Jesse Montgomery's Starburst as well, so a little thread of programming between our organizations. But it's really great for us to be able to see the work that all of our colleagues are doing and not have to leave Hawaii to do so.
Although we do miss Joanne.
We do, and we look forward to having her back very soon here. So, well, I think we are reaching the end of our time together here this evening. I would like to thank quite a few people. Of course, top of the list would be Gregory Dunn here at the Hawaii Theater Center for all his support in making these possible. Donard Sonoda of 808 Video Production. Bob Dickerson of Jim Walters Audio, and of course Kaka'ako Wines. Our radio comes from Hound and Quail. I saw a post that they were opening back up on October 1st, so head on over to Hound and Quail in Chinatown here. And Oh, the set's empty behind us. So I think the three of us are going to go get a
Take the
shot
red
on the red
carpet.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's always been a dream of mine.
Thank you for your support. I encourage you to, if you haven't seen this past weekend's performance, buy a ticket and watch that. And then please join us on Saturday for our next Sounds of Resilience program, From Chaos to Calm. Thank you again for all the support. Stay safe, stay healthy, have a great week. Mahalo.
Mahalo.